All right, welcome. This is Monday, March 20th at 4:30 p.m. I'm Commissioner Paul Schwer, here to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Tullahoma Planning Commission. With that, I determined that we do have a quorum. We have 5 present. Absent are Mr. Berry and Ms. Almacher, and I believe that they might be joining us later, but they're tied up with some other city business. So seeing 5, we do have a quorum. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Marvin Sellers to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Moving on to item 4, read and approve the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning Commission held on February 20th, 2023. The minutes are in your packet for you to review. If you take a minute to review those, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
All right, a motion. Second. All right. Any comments? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right. Motion passes to approve the minutes 5-0. All right. All right, moving on, general public comments for items not on the agenda. General public is permitted to speak on items within the purview of the Planning Commission. However, not identified on the agenda, your time is limited to 3 minutes. So if anyone would like to come forward and take use of that time, please do so now. All right, seeing none. Moving on to officers' report of staff, Ms. Samaniego.
Thank you, Mary Samaniego, Planning Director. All of you should have received notice that we will be having a special call meeting on October 19th for review and consideration of the April 19th at 4:30 for the review and approval of the revised 2011 comprehensive plan. A regularly scheduled meeting will be that Monday on April 17th. Other than that, I'm happy to welcome and introduce Charles Rush. To my right, he is our new senior planner. He joins us from Auburn, Alabama. He has a double master's in urban planning and public administration, and his recent work experiences with a planning consulting firm. So we're more than happy to bring him onto our team, and it's a big relief for me.
All right, yes, welcome aboard.
So I can share it.
Glad to be here, for sure.
All right. All right, Charles, we look forward to working with you. Is that everything, Mary?
Yes, sir. We can proceed with the agenda.
Okay.
Items 8A1 and 2 need a continuance until April 17th because they are still pending their septic approvals. 8A1 and 8A2.
Okay. All right.
Is there a motion? Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. No, there's no old business. So, moving on to new business, subdivision plats. I guess we can probably do 1 and 2 at the same time, and just do we have a motion to continue to the April meeting?
Motion.
Second. And then discussion. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The 424 G Road and the Ross Minor subdivision will be moved to the next month's agenda, April 17th at 4:30. All right, moving on to item number 3, Simmons G Road Minor Subdivision, a plat to create 3 lots from an existing 9.97 acres on the 500 block of G Road. Applicant is Simjago, I'm sorry about that, LLC. If the applicant would like to come forward and pronunciation would be great too.
Simjo.
Simjo. Okay, thank you.
So we have 3 lots platted out here on G Road. All a little over 3 acres, 161 feet of road frontage on all 3.
Any questions from the commission for Mr. Simjo? All right, thank you.
Sir.
All right, at this time, this is a public hearing, so I'll open up the public hearing. For anyone that would like to come speak about the Simmons G Road minor subdivision, please come forward. All right, seeing none, I will move on to the staff report. Ms. Samaniego.
Thank you. Let's get to the current case. Simmons G Road, here is the property location map. It is located in the RS1 Coffee County Low Density Residential District and is in the Coffee County Urban Growth Boundary. As the applicant stated, the property is 9.97 acres in size. They're proposing 3 lots. Each of the lots are 3.25 acres, which meets and well exceeds the minimum lot size of 0.8 acres for this portion of the urban growth boundary in the RS1 zoning district. Septic systems have been reviewed and approved through TDEC, and it is compatible with the surrounding area as far as large lots in the RS1. There are 2 notes, one from the city engineer and one from TUA Water and Sewer, that would have to be added to the plat after approval. So staff is recommending approval of the final plat subject to those staff comments.
All right, thank you, Mary. Questions for Mary?
I move to approve.
All right, got a motion from Mr. Comer, second from Mr. Hall. Discussion on this? For clarity, it's approved with comments, incorporation of comments from staff. All right, no discussion. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, 5-0. The motion was made by Comer and Hall. All right. Item number 4, Whitley Park minor subdivision of plat to create 4 lots from existing 3.21 lots at the 300 block of Jean Drive. The applicant is Mr. Thomas Whitley. I'd like to invite the applicant to come forward and tell us about the subdivision.
Hi, Mr. Whitley is still out of the country, and my name is Mandy Bobo, and I work for his surveyor. He just wants to create 4 lots out of that 1 lot and put 4 single-family houses on those lots. It has been approved by TDEC.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Bobo? All right, thank you.
All right.
All right, this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. Anyone from the public that would like to speak, please come forward and 2 minutes, please, and state your name and address.
My name is Paul Simmons, and my address is 221 Jean Drive. I live right next door to the property that has been trying to be developed there. We've had this meeting before, sort of, about the rezoning part of it. And when it went to rezoning, not here, but in Franklin County, it was turned down. And because it's agricultural land all the way around there, all 4 sides is agricultural land, it's not R1 yet. But this is a move to get it done to R1 to create a subdivision there. That's what this is about to start with. And the neighbors all around us are against this subdivision being in the middle of this agricultural land. We moved out there to start with for this to be agricultural land. And now the city right here is trying to turn it over to city property so they can make tax money off this. This is all it's about. And we want to be left alone out in Franklin County. We don't want the city controlling Franklin County. We don't think it's right to begin with. Actually, we don't think we ought to be here. I don't think city ought to have anything to do with Franklin County. It's a mile out inside Franklin County. It's not close to the city. And the only thing we've got out there right now is city water. And the fire hydrants and stuff we don't even have. There's no fire hydrants within 40 houses right there now, and they're wanting to add more to that. So, I want to be nice about this, but we're getting tired of these meetings coming to them and having to go through the same thing, a different direction every time. And that's what this is about. It's going a different direction to get that rezoned to R1. I mean, if you look at the map and if you look back at the references, the meetings we've been at before, that's what this is about.
All right, thank you.
And so.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons.
You do understand that, right?
Understood.
So.
Thank you. Your time's expired.
Okay.
No, sir. Thank you.
Your time is up.
Our time's out. We don't have enough time to say anything.
Thank you.
It's in control. It's not right.
Anyone else from the public care to speak? All right, I will close the public forum. Ms. Samaniego, staff report.
Thank you. This is the Whitley Park minor subdivision. Again, this property is located at the 300 block of Jean Drive in the urban growth boundary, this time of Franklin County. The overall property is 8.21 acres, but the applicant is leaving a 5-acre remainder as is. And so with the remaining 3.21 acres, he's proposing to create 4 lots. For the Planning Commission's knowledge and the public's knowledge, the property is still currently zoned agricultural through Franklin County Agricultural District. So this plat approval does not change the zoning. And per the Franklin County Agricultural Zoning District, the minimum lot size for that agricultural zoning district is half an acre, if they have public water, which they do. So each of the lots are at least 70.75 acres, so they meet and exceed the Franklin County Agricultural Zoning District standards. I did route this through the Franklin County Planning Department, and they had a comment that these lots appear to meet Franklin County zoning. However, due to the easements for access on lots 3 and 4, we would require a statement noting the dominant tenant of the easement if it were to come through our office. So that's just saying that the 2 access easements, the access easement through lot 1 to get to lot 4 and lot 2 to get to lot 3, they would have to note on the plan who owns the easement and who's being granted the easement. Other than that, it has received TDEC approval for the septic systems for each lot as required. And then the city engineer, ERPLUD, and Tullahoma Water and Sewer just have a couple clarifications on some of the notes. So saying that staff does recommend approval of the final plat subject to all staff conditions.
All right. Thank you, Mary. Questions from the commission from Mary? All right. I'll
If we approve this here, it still has to go to Franklin County? Do I understand it right?
No.
They don't have to approve it also?
No.
Okay.
Subdivisions are under, per state statute, subdivisions are under the sole authority of the applicable planning commission.
Okay.
All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion. Approved.
All right. Motion from Rice. Second. All right. Second from Comer. All right. Discussion. I'll just comment that it seems like this has been something that's been, Thomas Whitley, the easement portion that needs to be approved by the adjoining landowners, that's the peck and paw.
It's not adjoining it's the easements are entirely within the applicant's property.
Oh, I got you. Oh, I see.
So there would be a note that says, the owner of lot 2 does hereby grant easement forever and in perpetuity to the property owner of lot 3. There's kind of standard easement language that has to be added to the plat.
I got you. I knew that. All right. All right, seeing no more discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. 4-0. 4-1. I'm opposed. I'm against the subdivision of rural. I do not. No, I don't, I just kind of, I probably should have said that to start with, but that's okay. All right, item number 5. Barton Carter Blake minor subdivision. A plat to create 2 lots from existing 5 acres at 1234 Carter Blake. The applicant is Mr. George Allen. I would like to invite Mr. Allen to come forward. Thank you.
Not Mr. Allen.
Not Mr. Allen.
Mr. Best. I was hired by Mr. Allen to do the survey of the property. What Mr. Allen, he owns the property to the north and west of this property that we're subdividing. He's made a deal with the current owner, the Bartons, to buy a 3-acre piece adjacent to his and in behind the Barton yard area. And so we're requesting a division of a 5-acre original tract into 2 pieces, one being 3, one being 2, the 2-acre piece being retained by Barton, and the 3-acre piece being sold to Mr. Allen.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Best? All right, move on to, this is a public hearing. This time I'll open up the public hearing for anyone that would like to come speak. All right, seeing none. Staff report from Ms. Samaniego.
Thank you. Again, as the applicant stated, this is a 2-lot minor subdivision. This property is in the city limits of Tullahoma. The overall property is 5 acres. Each of the 2 lots meets the minimum lot size of the R1 zoning district. The lots are located on a public urban collector road. Carter Blake is a 60-foot right-of-way. They will connect to TUA services for electric service, public water, and sewer. A proposed fire hydrant will be installed in front of both lots on Carter Blake right-of-way. And there is just one comment regarding a note from TUA that the applicant and the lot numbers that the applicant has already addressed. But for the purpose of the motion, go ahead and say staff recommends approval for the final plat subject to all comments.
All right. Did you say this was on sewer?
I'm sorry?
Is it on sewer? I missed that. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for?
So is he trying to buy this portion and add it to his current lot? Is that what I'm saying? And then there'll be a lot in the back?
What you're seeing, no, it's just the neighbor to the north is buying this newly created lot. The lot 1, which has a long frontage, and then the back, that's its own independent lot.
Okay.
He may want to absorb it into his existing property, but he's not requesting it at this time.
Okay. All right. Motion?
Motion to approve, subject to comments.
All right, thank you. Second? From Mr. Sellers. Any discussion on this? All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Yes, Ms. Allmacher has joined us, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm here.
All right.
Mr. Berry will probably be here shortly. We have a short executive
Yeah.
session downstairs.
All right, all opposed? Abstained? That's 6-0. All right, thank you. All right, moving on. The next section of the agenda is the text amendments. Again, this is the public hearing. Text amended ZTA to the zoning ordinance for sign code revision. I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Samaniego to give us the rundown.
Thank you. Mary Samaniego for the record. The main kind of initiative for this text amendment was back in June 18th of 2015, there was a Supreme Court case called Reed versus the town of Gilbert, Arizona. The main point of the court case was that local governments through zoning cannot differentiate between different types of temporary signs. So you can't differentiate between a political temporary sign, a yard sale temporary sign, a auction temporary sign, a opening soon, Marshall's temporary sign. You can't differentiate between different types of sign because that starts infringing on free speech. So since 2015, the majority of zoning codes throughout the country have updated their sign regulations within the zoning ordinance to just regulate by type of sign. So there's just a temporary sign, no matter what it says or what its purpose is, as opposed to if you look through your code to break it down by different types of political signs or temporary signs that we have. So we really do need to correct that. While we're in there, the sign chapter, in my opinion, is kind of unnecessarily cumbersome. It's difficult for the kind of general public to read and understand. There's multiple definitions as an example, the beginning definition section that don't actually have any regulations tied to them. It's just a defined term that then isn't further regulated. There's a chapter or a table in the back that has some of the provisions that we see that property owners think that that's all they have to comply with, and they don't know the table is kind of a summary, but there's still other sections that they have to comply with. So I've eliminated the table and put all of the regulations for, say, an on-premise sign in one spot to make it easier for users. I am having MTAS review this as well for legal compliance with the Reed versus Town of Gilbert, Arizona case. Let me preface this by saying I would recommend that the Planning Commission actually not vote on this tonight. I think it would be appropriate to really review what I've presented. It's a lot to go through, and kind of maybe spend the next month driving around town, talking to local business owners to see kind of what types of signs you like, you don't like, how business owners feel about it, so that the code, the sign code really reflects the will of the people, as it were. Because a lot of times we're reviewing sign codes, design permitting, and people are saying, well, why is it like this? And we're like, well, because it's in the code. I mean, I do know, and I will say that since 2016, the sign code has been revised 5 different times. So I think that, again, it's probably time to look at the code in its entirety and really flush out, making it simple and making firm policy decisions, and try to get a good working ordinance once and for all. I have provided you, sorry, that was, I'm not done. Okay. I have provided you a red line version of the document. Within this red line version, I have not made any policy decisions as far as, like, I'm not saying eliminate billboards or reduce the size of freestanding signs. I'm mostly just moving things around and deleting, like I said, extraneous, like definitions for a type of sign that we don't even regulate. Further to that point, I did create a template for you for your use on page 60 of your staff report that outlines all of the different types of temporary signs. So it has type of temporary sign, under the current ordinance what the sign area is, under the current ordinance what the sign height is for all those types of signs, number of signs per lot, and then what the time frame is. So as you're kind of working through this and thinking about it, since we can't differentiate between types of signs, you might want to think about, like, looking at, primarily it's going to be time frame and size. How long do you want to allow temporary signs to be up? With the understanding that a temporary sign is a grand opening sign, but it's also a political sign. Same thing with size, and height is usually not it, but size and time up. So that's something to think about.
that everything?
Okay, and then one last thing. Also, on page 61, I'm almost done. On 61 through 71, again, just trying to work through the definitions. I provided you some photographs of what types of signs are, the definitions of this type of sign, because you might be like, as you're reading through it, what is an environmentally activated sign? Oh, that's a flag sign. So I provided you pictures as you're reading through the code so you can kind of understand the zoning legalese that we use to understand in reality what they're talking about. That's it.
Ms. Allen, I got one quick question about procedural before we proceed. This is marked as a public hearing. If we hold a public hearing tonight, do we still have the ability to hold public hearings on future readings of this?
Yeah, I would recommend continuing it. And
Okay.
then- Yeah.
All right. I just want to I know we,
This is different than a
this is
subdivision.
kind of apples and oranges, but I didn't want to make sure we get caught up
Yeah.
in something different. Anyway, you're recognized. Thank you.
I don't know where it's at in here, but I've had several complaints about the sign permit and the process that which we do that, and the stringent requirements. There was a complaint just recently from a new business owned by the Myers family, I believe. I hate to name drop, but essentially she told me that one of the things, they made them get up and they had to basically get on top of this building, and then they had to measure from corner to corner and corner. You probably know which one I'm talking about. She was really upset that she said it was really dangerous. Her husband almost fell off a ladder. Like, she said that, an estimate, and I understand that the ordinance is what it is and the code is what it is. You didn't create it. But if we could, the average sign code ordinance should, in a city this size, should be no more than 4 or 5 pages. You're absolutely correct. It is absolutely too cumbersome, and in fact, if we ever were challenged, it could be potentially lead to, some liability for unconstitutional infringement of commercial speech.
Right.
And so it's a liability waiting to happen in a multitude of ways. So my suggestion to Ms. Samaniego and our senior planners and all these board members is to figure out what to keep, and I'd say keep 25% of what's here and 3/4 needs to go. It needs to be user friendly. We need to encourage businesses. We need to make it easy for people to fill out and not be too hard to put up a sign to advertise for those businesses, because we want the sales tax. So let's keep the end goal in mind. We're supposed to be a support, not a hindrance.
All right. Let's do this first. Let's at Ms. Samaniego's suggestion, I would like to entertain a motion to postpone this with discussion.
Move to postpone.
All right. All right. Motion on the table. Let's discuss what we want to do. We'll start with Ms. Are you done?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to request a non-red line so that I can see it in its final version, that as you proposed it right now, so then we can do exactly what you're talking about, go through and look at
Okay.
it. I read this and it was getting quite confusing looking
Yeah.
through what's there and not.
I will concur with that. And I also thought that last table was what you were adding to.
You have to see the red line, so you don't think
yeah.
that I'm just.
Another clarification, what does silent mean in the table on page 60? Does that mean the sign doesn't make any noise?
Oh, that is,
Specified.
Sorry, yeah. It
that
must
the
mean
code did
something.
not address it.
The what?
That the law was silent on that matter, so
Okay.
special event and public rights of way under sign area, it doesn't have any provision for a sign area. Could be 2 square feet, it could be 1,000 square feet, who
Does
knows?
that
There
mean
was
we
no
need- does
specific
that-
regulation.
Is that
Means we have
something
no
we need to
regulation.
address it then?
Yeah.
No, we have no regulation. No regulation is good. So, no,
Okay.
we're good.
So that's what that means, silent means there was no specific relation
All
to
right,
that
thank you.
topic. Okay.
Anything else? Good. I think next, go ahead, Mary.
I'm sorry. If, hopefully some of you maybe have already looked through it. If you have any questions or comments, it would be good, like, we can start talking about it now. If not, I'd like to briefly go through it myself for a couple things, specific things to think about before you close this one out.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So again, think about the types of signs as you are kind of driving around town and talking to business owners. One thing that is, I've highlighted some issues. Example, flag signs. There were a lot of flag signs throughout the city, but they were not really permitted. But they're all over the place. So that's something that I would look to the Planning Commission and ultimately the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to determine if we want to permit flag signs or not. If you want to permit them, let's put them in the code so we don't have this enforcement issue with them. Similarly, it's not marked down, but it's now just popping in my head, billboards. For some reason, some folks around here seem to think that there was a signage amendment years ago that prohibited new billboards. I can't see any evidence of that. So we allow billboards in the city. You have to meet certain thresholds. So that's something else to kind of think about. Yeah, just electronic message sign. Just, again, go through the code, go through the pictures, and think about what types of signs you do and don't want in the city. And then the temporary signs, again, I'm going to need specific guidance about how big. I think it would probably be appropriate for temporary signs to be like restricted to one type of temporary sign in residential properties, and then another type for non-residential, and then height and length of time up.
So may I add to that? Something for you guys to think about is, all of these signs that we're regulating in the city limits are on private property or commercial property. We're not talking about signs in the right-of-ways because we don't really allow those unless we have special permitting. So if you're a business owner or you're a landowner or you're having a yard sale, a lot of people just don't take too kindly to somebody telling you, hey, your sign's 2 inches too big, you can't have that. So let's think about, being reasonable as we're going through here. And I wouldn't say, well, this is allowed, this is allowed, this is allowed. Focus on the things that we absolutely want to prohibit because of safety and other concerns, not because of our tastes and whether we like or dislike, if that makes sense.
I tend to agree with this. I will say, though, if you say that it needs to be, you can pick as big a sign as you want. You could say 30 feet by 30 feet. Someone will come in here and say 31 feet. And you'd be like, but, so I do think we need we do need to have some reasonable restrictions. I mean, I don't know what those need to be. I've never bought any signs. So, don't really know. But I'd be curious to see what the public and business owners have to say. I will say that you found a beautiful example of a snipe sign. Was that in town? Or was that clip art?
I tried to use local examples just so you can kind of like, oh.
Most of them I noticed, but.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I have a question for
Go ahead.
Ms. Amonier.
Snipes.
You mentioned earlier about getting some feedback for our next meeting from the community, especially from the business community. I think in doing that, you need to do more than just put an agenda item in the paper. And I was wondering if it'd be appropriate to solicit help from the Chamber of Commerce in getting this done.
No, that's a good idea. I mean, I can say that, yes, that's a very good idea. I will say that as far as Chamber, since I've been here, so I've been here like 2.5 years, I think I've actually denied maybe 1 or 2 sign permits out of 100 or so. So for the most part, the regulation as far as how big of signs we allow is generally okay. Very rarely do I have to tell someone you'd actually reduce the size of the sign. I did go ahead and spoke today with Tony Mercado, who is our property maintenance inspector, and asked what types of complaints do we get from the public regarding signs? Like what types of signs? Is there a specific type of sign that everybody complains about? He said mostly it's snipe signs and like temporary signs in the right of way because people have trouble seeing them around them when they're pulling out of driveways. But there wasn't any specific type of sign like everybody hates the flag signs or everybody complains about X. So just to keep that in the back of your mind as well.
I mean,
Well,
what,
yeah, I'll certainly contact the chamber and do a survey through them.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
yeah, that's a good suggestion. We can do that. One of the type of sign that I would like the flashing LED signs in residential areas, particularly, seems like churches are a routine offender. We can, hopefully we can figure out how to make those a little bit more appeasing for residents that live near churches. Is there anything specific we would need to talk about, like,
No.
to go through here?
No, just like
If
kind
we
of
can
give
get
you some
a-
direction.
If we can kind of get the red line is good, but if we could get like this is what we think the final revision is, I think that's a good place to start. From there, I think we can go on Ms. Amacher's suggestions about trying to kind of figure out what we actually do want the signs to look like, and we can hear things from the public.
Okay.
And whatnot.
So the non-red line, do you want the version that I'm proposing? Like,
Yes.
accept all the red
Yes.
lines, and that's how it would read? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't understand the difference between I thought the green was adding, and the red, everything with red has strikeout except for some stuff. And
No,
And,
the green is relocating.
Okay,
It's cut
okay.
And moving, yeah.
then there's blue, but that's just renumbering, I think.
My assumption, do you have the Word document that has the audit trail in it?
Yes,
Can you send that? Because that would be
yeah,
easier to kind of pull up and look at.
yeah, and I'll also, since Alderman Berry just walked in, first thing tomorrow morning, I'll email you the accepted non-red line version of this.
All right. One thing I forgot to do is actually hold the public hearing on this.
No,
I
it's
don't know.
fine now, staff reports first, it's fine.
Okay, well, we kind of had a motion on the floor too already to propose. Is anybody here to speak on this? Okay, good, thank you. We'll have next month, let's look at this and then invite the chamber if they would like to speak on this and
Yeah.
and do that, so. But yeah, we'll vote in a minute, we're closing discussion.
Yeah.
So, anyway, vote to postpone, or anything else. We'll go around. All right, we'll vote to postpone. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, and that's I guess a 7-0 vote to postpone to the next meeting. All right, that concludes the agenda, and with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
No, Boza.
Reposa?
Oh, no, okay. Oh, that includes our planning commission agenda.
Yeah.
And at this time, I will call to order the City of Tullahoma Board of Zoning and Appeals agenda for Monday, March 20th, 4:30 p.m. We do have a quorum, 7 in attendance. And this time, read and approve the minutes from the December 17th meeting. Take a second to look over those, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Mr. Hall.
Second.
Second from Mr. Berry. Ms. Samaniego has a comment.
For the record, it was December 19th.
Yes. Did I just state that?
You said the 17th, it's fine, I
Okay.
just stated the date about 20
December
minutes ago.
19th, yes, thank you. All right. Discussion other than that? All right. Call the vote. All in favor of the approval of minutes? Aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Approval of the minutes, 7-0. There's no unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. It's a public hearing, variance 226, to reduce the rear yard setback for an accessory structure from 10 feet to 0 feet at 100 Sims Lane. The applicant is Greater Faith Community Church. I would invite the applicant to come forward and tell us your need for the variance, and thank you.
Good evening. I'm Pastor Donald Smith at Greater Faith Community Church. And this church is in the community on Sims Lane. And what's what this is about, we had bought 2 buildings from Watson's Metal. We bought a storage building. We've been there since 2018. And I actually went to this church with my cousin, who was a pastor when I was a kid. But we bought a storage building from Watson's Metal, and they came out and they said, okay, we can put it, here on your property line. Shortly after that, we got an awning from Watson's Metal, who came out, measured the property, looked at it, and they sold us an awning. Well, it got cold, and we began to close the awning in and close it in for shelter. About that time, the building codes came and told us that it was an issue. And we had no idea, because I bought many buildings from Watson's Metal over the years, over probably a 20-year period, and I never had to get a building permit. So we had no idea that we needed a building permit for either structure. And Watson's Metal did not tell us either. So we're looking here at, here's the drawing that we have. I don't know if y'all have seen
Have it,
Yeah.
this drawing. But what you need to see is how it's laid out. Because I don't think it's spelled out at the top of it.
It is, I think, what does that say, existing building? It looks like it might be a little faded. What is,
Yeah, and so
does that say storage
the
building?
storage building
Okay, storage
is on the
building.
top. This is looking from the rear of the property. The storage building's across the back end, and then the awning area, and then the existing structure. That's the way it's laid out now at this appointed time. And so what we're looking to do is we could try to move the storage building, but the awning area would almost be impossible to move at this point. And plus, too, we're a small church, community church. We're here we use that for food ministry. We use it for the children. We use that little area as a little catch-all area. Because we're only about, I think we're a 2,000 square foot building or less. So it's very necessary for us to use it. And we set the structure of the church for it to be here for a long time. And so we're not in the business of selling the church. We're looking for it to be a help to the community. And so the storage building, we could maybe look to move, but the awning area, the enclosed awning area, it would almost be impossible to move at this point. So that's why we're looking for that reduction. That's simply the reason why we're looking for that reduction. And then, too, we're nowhere near any other neighbor. If you look at the property, we're nowhere near anyone's door, because the next house behind us is a long way back, if you look at the drawing. But the storage building, we would want to probably move it, instead of on the west side, probably to the east, instead of the east side, probably to the west side. Okay, if that would be possible, maybe they could work with us to do that. But the awning area is why I'm here, so that we couldn't move that. And then we would lose our functionality as a church too. So I don't want to take too much time, but I could answer any questions. But that's basically why I'm here today.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Mr. Donaldson? Is that
Donald?
Donald? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Before we go on to, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick, it's impossible to move this point just because the way it was constructed, I'm assuming concrete
Yeah, it was an
down
awning
and.
put up, to the church. Watson Metal came in and put it there, and then we use it. I mean, it's so much of a use for the church now. It would place a hardship on us to even try to move it. Now, like I said, we're going to try to move the storage building to the side, but the awning area would be
Is it fixed into the ground?
Well, we've got it
It's
set in the
fixed.
ground now.
Okay,
So that
okay.
it wouldn't move. But,
Okay,
yeah, with pins, with the,
yeah,
with the way they come in and put it down,
okay.
Watson Metal.
So the building, if you took pins out, could possibly be moved? You just don't have a spot for it?
No, those pins are concreted in.
Okay. So,
Yeah, it would be extremely hard to move. I mean, I've seen them take houses and pick them up, but you're talking extremely hard to move. And then also, too, we would lose the functionality of the church with that point. And the storage building, the way it's set up now, is great. But if we had to move the storage building, we could probably get that moved somewhere. But the little awning area that's enclosed, that shouldn't move.
is the awning more than 10 feet, or is it on the lot line also? Because the way I read it, the building was on the existing lot line. Maybe Mary? Paul?
Go ahead, Mayor.
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
I just wanted to clarify. So the variance request is just for the accessory structure, just the shed?
Just the shed?
Yes.
Not the awning area.
No, because I went out, when I did my site visit, I went out and measured it's an addition to the principal building.
Right.
So that meets that rear yard setback if you take the shed out.
So the shed is the problem?
The shed is the problem.
Okay, we were looking at it as though the awning area is under.
No. The awning area might be an issue because of not getting a building permit, but as far as the setback, the awning area meets the principal structure setback. So the awning
Okay.
part, the building addition is fine. I actually went out there and measured it, because I was
Yes.
like, if he takes the shed away, are we still okay?
Okay.
So that part's fine. So it's the shed that needs to either get a variance for the setback, because it's on the property line,
Mm-hmm.
and the shed has to be 10 feet, or relocated.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I just
So
didn't want
if we had
it to get
time,
confused.
we may be able to move the shed area. Or if they would leave it where it is, would be great. I mean, that'd be extremely great to be able to leave it where it is and to use it as its current use would be amazing at this point.
Okay. Well, thank you. So, let me clarify here. There's a misunderstanding about what you were being asked to do. May need some building permit issues. I'm not here to advise on that. But the shed is something that you're willing to move and have a place to put it?
Attempt to try to move it, at this point.
I moved to, if you will, I moved to reduce the rear yard setback to 0 feet because this is a religious organization and they're trying to do good for our community. We don't want to cost them any more money or hassle than they need.
Right. So hold that thought. Let's get to that point. All right, I think, any other questions for Mr. Donald? With that, I will open up a public hearing. So anyone from the public that would like to come speak on this is welcome to your 2 minutes of time. Seeing none, we'll move to the staff report from Ms. Samaniego.
Thank you. Again, you can sit down, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
don't have to stay.
If we have any more questions,
Reverend,
we'll
I'm
call you
sorry.
back.
Hold on, let me get there. So here is the subject property. The shed in question is highlighted in red. From the point in time that the aerial was taken, the building addition, which the applicant's referring to as the enclosed awning, isn't shown here because it just recently occurred in the last year or so. The existing accessory structure is approximately 450 square feet. The purpose is for storage of related church activities. The property is zoned high-density residential R3, which allows churches as a use permitted upon review. The original church was constructed in 1974, and the applicant is proposing to request a variance from the 10-foot required accessory structure rear yard setback to 0. You have 5 criteria for your findings of fact. For variance, variance shall only be granted where specific conditions and circumstances fully described in the findings of the board do not apply generally in the district. Staff finds that there are no significant limitations relating to the siting of the building as it relates to the required setback of the property. It is staff's opinion that there is adequate space to the east of the church to place the accessory structure that meets applicable setbacks. See your location exhibit. That's the exhibit that you have up on the screen. I did a dimensional scale of the shed and moved it, and it would meet the setbacks. For non-residential uses, accessory structures have to be 20 feet from the principal structure, which it shows, and then 10 feet from all other property lines. So this shed could be relocated in compliance with the setbacks. Any variance granted under the provisions of this section shall be the minimum adjustment necessary for reasonable use of the land. The request is an unreasonable adjustment to the setback as it places an accessory structure up to the property line adjoining a detached single-family residence. Variances shall not be granted to allow use otherwise excluded. Again, as I said, it's not a use issue. The church is already permitted. For reasons fully set forth in the findings of the board, the aforesaid circumstances or conditions are such that the strict application of the provision of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of any reasonable use of his land. Mere loss in value shall not justify variance. There must be a deprivation of beneficial use. Staff finds that the request to decrease the rear yard setback of the building to accommodate necessary upgrades of property is not a reasonable request for the use of the land. The accessory structure was constructed without required building permit. It is staff's opinion that there is adequate space to the east of the church to place accessory structures that meet all applicable setbacks. And then lastly, the granting of any variance is in harmony with the general purpose or intent of this ordinance and will not be injurious to the neighborhood, detrimental to the health, safety, welfare, or in conflict with the comprehensive development plan. It is staff's professional opinion that the proposed encroachment into the rear yard setback will be injurious to the surrounding property owner, again, primarily to the neighbor to the north. Again, when looking at variances, you have to kind of look at the facts of the case, and you can't necessarily make decisions based on the specific ownership. So with that, staff is recommending disapproval of the variance request based on those findings.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to reduce the rear yard setback to 0 feet. Based on this being a religious organization and my citing of what is called the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act through the federal government that intends to not burden institutions of religious uses.
So you move to approve the variance.
Yes, I move for the variance.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Mr. Comer. I will open discussion. Mr. Sellers.
I was still trying to understand the sketch. It appears, according to the drawing, that the building is actually outside the property line, or am I mistaken? The property lines are not that accurate.
The property line for this property is actually the black fence.
The black, okay.
Do you see it?
So there is a fence between the building and the property
That is correct.
behind it?
Yeah.
And
Sometimes the aerials and the property lines don't
okay.
render, yeah.
And just a question for you. Does the person that lives behind it have an objection to this being that close to their fence line?
I did not hear from them. I think that property, do you want to come back up and address that? I think he might have spoken to them.
Okay.
I encouraged him to do though, so to talk to his neighbors about it.
We've been there since 18, and we haven't had any problem or verbal problem with the Shaws or anyone back there. You know, we just try to, you know, keep everything. And so we're not, and she's right 100%. The building is still, I've got pictures, it's still a ways away from the fence, from the back houses. So you're talking from the fence is there and the building's here. So we're not close to the fence, and then you've got a long way from that fence to the house too. So yeah, we're not encroaching on them, and then we're on the other side of the fence too.
Did you specifically speak with them?
I haven't been,
Okay.
there's not, we just talked about that. We haven't seen a lot of activity from, they're elderly. And we haven't seen a lot of activity from them or from the Maupins who are on this side, whom I've known my whole life. And we think that they may even have, she may even be in a nursing home or somewhere, because we haven't seen her in over a month. And we used to take food there, and we used to do things of that nature. And the daughter has taken over the property, who lives in Murfreesboro. Well, all the family lives in Murfreesboro, the siblings. And that's who's taken over it now. And that's another reason why we don't want to use that side of the property either. Wouldn't be a good option, because they may be selling the property or whatever.
How was this discovered? Was there a complaint issued?
I don't remember.
No, it's simply,
I honestly don't
the way it came to us was they said they were driving by and saw it. That's what your guys said, they were
Okay.
driving by and
Must have
saw
come
it.
from our property
And
maintenance
it had been there for some time.
So how far would you say that, like 6 feet away from the fence?
10?
No,
Six?
no, you wouldn't be here if it was 10.
Yeah, I was about to say.
No, honestly,
From the fence, it's probably from here. I've got a picture on my phone.
I would say it's about 3 feet.
3 feet.
From the fence.
Yeah, because I was on the side. I was just,
said the
you can
fence-
walk from the fence behind the building.
The fence is the property line?
Yeah.
So the thing that you guys,
Yeah.
we're talking a matter of feet here. To move this building about 3 or 4 feet would probably cost this church over $10,000. It is unnecessary, and it would just be too burdensome. And in fact, I just would not recommend it for our liability purposes either, based on the religious land use protections. So I hope that you will continue to serve our community and do good things with this
For
emotion.
the last 16 years, we've been all in, and we're going all in for the Lord. But this right here, it would help us if we didn't have to have this burden of moving. And you can, and anybody wants to see this.
So is this a pre-manufactured like mini barn?
We bought all of it from Watson's Mill.
So it was assembled and they just dropped it off?
Yes, yes, sir.
Well, we put these together all the time, my crew does, and they are concreted with metal rods into the ground. and-
Depends on the structure. Sometimes they will, sometimes they don't. I didn't know.
You
if
said
they-
these had,
They put them into the concrete
That's
awning
right.
area, the awning area.
The awning
No,
area,
the
but not this
The
building.
shed,
But not
is
the
it shed
shed,
on a
the sh-
foundation, or is it just on
It's just sitting on bricks, I think,
cinder blocks?
cinder blocks, yeah.
So
we
this
could
is
go out
something-
there and move it.
Yeah, well, or you could have Watson's Metal come out there with their truck, pull it back on their truck and move it.
if it's not concreted in potentially, but
But it's all, the way it's set now, it's all together and functioning together. And if it could stay together, you'd have the same functionality. Moving it, you lose the little land that we do have. And you lose the functionality of what we're doing there.
they wouldn't have their awning area that's
With the
covered
building
and
on it, yeah.
with their building and everything for their usage, so.
All right. So thank you again. Let's get back to, yeah. So, I would love to, but we already closed the public forum, so as a matter of legal proceeding, we're going to stick to this. Ms. Elmacher, do you have anything else? We'll go around here. Mr. Berry.
Yeah. I'm a member of the Cedar Lane Church of Christ, an active member there. I'm a Mason, and I'm a member of the Order of the Temple. Religion is extremely important in my life. my church right now, we've got a building committee looking to do a add onto our shed area, and in addition, put in a tiny home so we can help transitioning families who don't have the means. Regardless of how important religion is to my life, I don't feel that we as a city can use that as grounds for a variance exemption here. And it tugs on my heartstrings. It absolutely does. But the next person that comes along and says, well, we've already built it, or if we say no because of that, we don't have any grounds to say no at that point, because I don't, when it comes to, we had our training, when it comes to these variances, we can't decide based upon what it is, who it is, what they're doing. And so when the next person comes along, or if my church, we've got some concerns and we're right up against the lot line, then that leaves grounds for us to just go ahead and build and do. Or if they say no, it gives us a lawsuit, or it gives us grounds. We have to say yes to every variance like this moving forward if we do this. And variances, I think, are difficult in their criteria for a reason. And so while I get it, I won't, I'm not able to say yes because of the trend that it sets, and because it does not meet the code.
It is very difficult to make a decision on this. I'm kind of like with Mr. Berry on this. It seems to be, it's not a permanent structure. It's not fixed to the ground. I think it was something that was, I think it's wrong that Watson's Metal told you that, and in this case, I would go back to Watson's Metal and I would try and force them to do it free of charge, because they're the ones that set it there, telling you this is what it is when they were wrong. And if they're, I would think there would be reasonable people who would be willing to help you on this. But I'm with Mr. Berry, and I think it's hard to say yes to this, because I think that leads to a slippery slope, because I think that's kind of playing favorites. No matter what your religion is. I feel like I'd be being biased on this if I voted yes for it.
Mr. Comer. Anything?
Well, I got mixed feelings on it. I kind of agree with Mr. Rice. I seconded the motion because I felt that it was worthy of discussion and consideration. I'm still kind of on the fence.
Charles, you got anything?
I agree with everything that's been said here. It's tough. I wish there was some way we could say that we could leave it, but it would set a bad precedent, unfortunately, because I feel for what you're trying to do is a good thing.
Ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a law in Tennessee that is the federal version of the RLU IPA. It is called the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act. It was passed in 1990, and it provides greater protections to institutions of religious liberty, which means churches and otherwise. And what it says is that they actually do get special treatment when it comes to city land use and zoning policies. And this law provides greater protection under the First Amendment and the free exercise clause thereof, which means restrictions on land that is owned by those institutions is actually pretty well frowned upon if it's not absolutely necessary. And since they're saying that this would detract from the central use of what they're doing for their community, I would appeal to you as a board that this would fall under that protection and that provision, and the reason that law was passed to guide us in planning commissions, to make sure that we are giving greater weight, because we don't want to detract and deter from these. Now, they may have made a mistake, and hopefully they will learn from that, and they have learned from it, I'm sure, and the Lord is teaching them as we speak today. However, what they do for the community far outweighs, and that is what the federal government and the state government created those laws for, is to try to protect people like this, who literally meant, obviously there has not been a complaint, there is not an issue, and we're talking about mere feet. Even if it is movable structure, it would still cost several $1,000s. I promise you, I have a construction crew right now that would charge that at a minimum, because their time isn't free either. It is unnecessary, and to me, it's almost unconstitutional. And yes, if you feel for them, then understand that their religious freedom and exercise does have greater protections than you or I would if we just made a mistake and built a building or put it on our property line. Tennessee Code 4-1-407 also provides those additional protections for religious liberty. The state and local governments must ensure that these core constitutional and statutory rights are protected. And so there is much greater weight given to religious organizations. In fact, they may be protected, and upon appealing this to a chancery court, they could prevail in overturning it. Let's not put these guys through that over a mere couple of feet. If it was me or you, sure, spend your money, move your building. But this is a religious organization that is offered greater protection.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, it's the last time around, though.
One, since it's the last time, one, I've sat up here before and said no to somebody else for this same thing, so it is difficult for me to say yes. In follow-up to you, you mentioned that code specifically states zoning laws. Which, can we look that up and read where
Religious Freedom Restoration Act.
But it specifically says about zoning?
Yes.
Which that, can you cite that?
There are two. There is, the federal version is the RLUIPA, Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act. And then the Tennessee version is the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act.
And it specifically talks about setbacks and zoning?
They specifically talk about local planning and zoning. In fact, there's a lawsuit right now pending over the Be the Bush Ministry, if you were aware of that issue. They have a pending lawsuit citing these two things over them not getting the zoning classification that they needed in our UGB. That the county denied them, and they have pending litigation over it, and they will probably prevail.
I think that zoning is a little bit different from the variance conversation that we're having.
Anything else?
No.
Is this, Mr. Worsham, do you have any comments on what Ms. Allmacher?
I have not memorized that act, nor neither the federal nor the state. If there's no rush to do this to make a decision tonight, I'd be happy to research it and give you an opinion next time.
I would like that.
This act is not the language and exactly how they apply, and so I think if there's no reason why we need to move forward with it, then I'll be happy to research it and do that for you.
I think everyone here would like to vote yes for it, so if we can, I think we would be willing to postpone this a month. I don't know how everybody else feels, but that's how I feel. But I would like assurance that is correct.
Move to postpone.
Can we let Mary?
Let me recognize Mary Semiego here.
Thank you. I just wanted, just based on your discussion, I just want to make sure that it was clear that the nature of variances, there is no establishing of a precedent. You grant a variance based on particular unique condition of that specific property. So you can't establish a precedent when granting a variance.
Thank you. All right. Motion to
postpone.
Second.
I'll get Barry for the second. All right. Postpone to the next board, to the next meeting. Okay. So we'll have April 17th meeting postponement.
Yep.
Any discussion on postponement? All right. Call the vote on postponing. Aye. Opposed? All right. All right. So that the variance will be postponed pending research from Mr. Worsham and presented at the next meeting. With that, that's the end of our agenda, so we are adjourned. Thank you for your time.